he also said that he maybe even could sound the same as he did back then. And that's kind of a big bummer to me, you know? Well, hello everybody and welcome to another video on my channel. Today I'm gonna talk about the new interview from Tom DeLonge that he gave to the Rolling Stone. So at first he talked about, besides the UFO stuff, he talked about creating Ava, the first album, and that he was on drugs, on painkillers at the time when he wrote that stuff. And yeah, he said that this was kind of a rebirth of himself and that he learned a lot of himself. He talks about what Ava means to him and the songs, and that he identifies on a different level with the Ava stuff than compared to Blink songs, which I can kind of understand because all this older Blink stuff, you know, he has written in his 20s or even earlier. You play these songs over and over again and you have to sing all this stuff that you wrote when you were a teenager, you know. I can understand that. You can relate more to Ava or, you know, like the Untitled album or maybe Neighborhoods. Then they talk a little bit about Rebel Girl and if we get a sound on the new album that will be similar to the first two albums. He said maybe, and he talked about how you go into a studio every time with a plan, and then on the first day of studio working, your plan is gone, you know, it never comes out as you planned it. Then he talked about a little bit of changing his sound with Angels and Airwaves since the Dreamwalker album and how it kind of split the fans in two. One half said, "That's awesome, that's the best thing you ever did, blah blah blah," and the other half was, "What is this sound? It's completely not Ava." And yeah, I think it was a change Tom had to make because he was very stuck in this older Angels and Airwaves sound. All the songs started to sound the same kind of. So I think it's good that he made this change to the band. He said the new album will be very similar to the Dreamwalker, but the melodies will be more like, you know, the early records like I Empire or stuff like that. He talked also a little bit about creating Boxcar Racer back then and how it taught him that he can do like mostly everything he wants to if he really wants it, you know. So Boxcar Racer kind of taught him to go new ways. Then a very interesting part begins. The interviewer told him that he was watching some last Blink shows on big festivals and stuff like that, and the interviewer mentioned how he sounds very different than, you know, early Blink and what led him to sing in that different voice. That's a very, very great question because I always wanted to hear Tom say something about it and I've never heard something. Maybe no one really asked him about this subject. Yeah, so Tom said that he kind of learned to use his voice over the years and that he never learned to sing in the first place. He always tried to sing like the Descendants. And with the start of Angels and Airwaves, which had a different tempo, a little bit slower and different melody writing and stuff like that, he kind of changed his singing to the music so that it fits better. And he said coming from that you know, nasally staccato, going to singing more like violin or a stringed instrument. And yeah, then it came all natural to him. Yeah, and he also talked about that he's not a good singer. And yeah, you know, that he's a little punk kid who learned singing in the garage and that it's very hard to make that sound good, you know, when you never learned to sing and hit the notes right in the first place. He said the way he sings is the only way he knows to sing right now. So yeah, it feels real and natural to him. He was also asked about if he got blowback from Mark and Travis because he sounds so different than he did on the records, you know. He said no, but he understands that the fans want the songs to sound as they know it from the albums. But for him it sounds funny trying to sound the way he did when he was like 16, he said. But he also sounded that way when they recorded the Untitled album, and he wasn't 16 at the time. So I don't know. I believe him when he said it feels natural to him now and real, and that he doesn't want to try sound like someone else, you know, it's like back then. But I don't know. It's just my thoughts. Maybe he has a little bit of problem with himself in that way when he's listening to older stuff or looking back to stuff he did back then. I don't know what's going on there, but for him it's important to be authentic. He cannot go out every night and put on a play because he would feel like a robot, and yeah, he just needs to be himself. That I really can understand that, and you cannot go on stage every night and not feel comfortable, you know. But what I don't understand, maybe, why don't sing on the records a little bit more as he did back then. I can only speak for myself. I would be so happy if he at least would sing on the album a little bit more as on the older records, because that voice made Blink so unique to me. He also said that he maybe even could sound the same as he did back then, and that's kind of a big bummer to me, you know. Not that I don't like his singing now, but it's just not the same. For me, this voice he is using right now, it's Ava, you know, it's just Ava. When Neighborhoods came out, I was like, oh, this sounds so much Ava. And yeah, for the most part, because of his voice and some synth. Then they talked a little bit about the anniversary of Phantom of the State, what it means to him, and that he would really like to play with Blink again in the future, when his business is like smooth sailing and he wants to play music. Then he wants to play music with Blink again. I really believe him when he says this, but no one knows if this scenario is ever going to happen, you know, because he really loves what he's doing right now, and who knows if he's ever ready to pass the wheel to someone else. I really want to believe it, and he wants to believe it, but I don't know if it's ever going to happen. I can just believe. And at the end, when he was asked about how it feels when, you know, someone else like Metziba is singing his songs, and then he was like, he thinks it's good for Mark and Travis because they can do what they love and that they don't have to wait for him, you know, until he's finished. Yeah, I think that's very major of him to say, and I really appreciate the interview and what he talked about in there. I hope you enjoyed the video. He also said the album will be out around after the tour start, because it will drop with a movie, and they kind of have to wait until the movie is finished. And so yeah, all right, leave a like, leave a thumb, subscribe, hit the notification button so you don't miss any uploads of me, and I see you in the next video. Bye bye, stay healthy.